Okay. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Welcome. Tonight, inshallah, we're going to talk about children, or not children, I would not want to use the word children, young adults and responsibility. But what we're going to do is a little different. We're not going to talk about, big, fancy ideas. Rather, we're going to see if the Prophet, peace be upon him, ever spoke to young people. A lot of people are under the impression that the Prophet always spoke to Sahaba, and the Sahaba were adults. But what we're going to cover tonight is rather an interesting discussion. And in fact, it is an advice from the Prophet, peace be upon him, to a young man. And what we're going to look and see the advice that the Prophet gave, you're going to see that this is a very heavy or deep advice. It's not a shallow advice. One of the problems I think we're dealing with today is that we treat young adults like children, and a lot of times they don't get any responsibility. They're not assigned any responsibility until they're in their 20s. Another thing you find also is that many kids don't have any boundaries. They're not able to recognize boundaries because those boundaries were never drawn. And that could be attributed to different issues. Sometimes not interacting enough with your parents, especially your dad, could contribute to this problem. And inshallah, all of you will be dads and upstairs moms. So this is also for the future, for you, that you need to start a relationship and play. Playing is important. Play with your kids. Because when you play with your kids, this is when you find the boundaries. As a kid, you're fighting or you're playing with your dad and you're pushing, right? And then what happens if you hit him in the eye? Spank, right? But this is exactly how the kids learn the boundary. And nowadays you see kids, bouncing around and there's no boundary. They jump on you and you tell them more than once, hey, watch it. And they have no clue because they never understood boundaries. They've never had any responsibility, not even a simple one. So inshallah, what we're going to learn tonight is how the Prophet, peace be upon him, engaged this young man. And you're going to see that all this advice is about being responsible, even if you're young, and being proactive and taking an initiative. So, the hero of tonight is a man by the name of Ibn Abbas. I think we mentioned him before. Some of you might have heard of Ibn Abbas. Who is Ibn Abbas? More than, you can do better than that. Huh? He's a cousin of the Prophet. Excellent. Could you guess how old Ibn Abbas? Because when we hear Ibn Abbas, we think, wow, this huge man. He's probably like a, 30-year-old, 40-year-old. How old was he? Do you know? 17? 15?
14.
Okay.
16.
Let us do some math. It's not guessing, okay? Let us do some math. Ibn Abbas was born 3 years before the Hijrah, the migration of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So can you tell me how old he was when the Prophet died? Who said 13? Very good. Yeah, it is. So Ibn Abbas was 13 when the Prophet died. Now we're going to see this encounter between the Prophet and Ibn Abbas. So he must have been younger than 13. We don't know how young He could have been 7, 8, 10, but not 13, younger than 13. He was not a teenager even. He was not in his teens. He was a tween, not a teen or preteen, whatever you call it. Okay, so let us start. So Ibn Abbas is telling us the story. He must have told it later in his life. And he said, I was behind the Prophet, peace be upon him. It could be that they're riding on the same, whatever, camel, horse. And he said, then the Prophet told me. So the Prophet talked to him, he addressed him. And he said, Ya ghulam. So we're going to see here, basically, I kind of counted. You can count 7 different advices that the Prophet gave to Ibn Abbas. So we're going to try and organize what he said into 7 major things. And that's going to be on the quiz. So remember, 7, not 8, not 6. And this is my counting. So you can disagree, but after the quiz, if you want to earn anything. You could disagree all the time, but... So 7 things to keep in mind. So he said, oh boy, ya ghulam. So we know right there that he was young. And that tells us that the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to talk to children, talk to young adults, just like he spoke to older people. Because some people think, well, these hadith that you see, they were all addressing Sahaba, and Sahaba must be these adults. But here we have a very important hadith. This is part of like the 40 famous hadith that everybody studies. So it's a prime hadith. So he said, oh boy, ya ghulam. So number 1, that's advice number 1. Inni u'allimuka kalimat. I'm going to teach you few words. I'm going to teach you what? Few words. Meaning few sentences. احفظ الله يحفظك. Number 1, احفظ الله يحفظك. So احفظ. What is حفظ? Hafiz, we say hafiz. Who is a hafiz? Somebody who memorizes, right? Or learns. But حفظ has a more essential meaning. حفظ means to protect. Good, you said protect, right? Good. And why do we call hafiz a hafiz? Because he's protecting what he memorizes. Because if you memorize, you're not supposed to forget. If you memorize and forget, you're not hafiz. So you have to protect what you memorize. Likewise, here, hifd means to protect. But what do you protect here? He said, you protect Allah. How do you protect Allah? Does Allah need any protection? No. So what does it mean? Well, it has many meanings. It means that you protect the boundaries that Allah set for you. And like I said earlier, a lot of people today, the problem we have is a lot of people today don't have boundaries. And this is why they're lost. Because there are no boundaries. So one thing we got to understand about Islam is that Islam sets boundaries. So when we set boundaries, you still have freedom. But you don't have unlimited freedom. So what are examples of things we're supposed to guard and protect? So it's about guarding and protecting. Well, number 1 is we're supposed to guard the prayer. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran in different places, and He used the same word, hafiz. He said, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. Guard the prayers, all of them, and especially the middle prayer. So there's like a special prayer. What is the middle prayer? Anyone? Asr. We have ijma' here. We have a consensus. A According to some schools, like the Hanafi school, they say it is Fajr, but the majority say it is Asr, because Asr is the middle. It depends where you start, obviously, but most people start counting in the morning. So the first prayer is Fajr, the second one is Dhuhr, and since we have 5, the third one has to be the middle one. There are a lot of evidence back and forth. I'm not going to talk about that now. What is important is that we have to protect and keep and guard the prayer. So that's one example. The Prophet also told us in the hadith, if you guard it, مَنْ حَافَظَ عَلَيْهَا كَانَ لَهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَحَدٌ أَنْ يَدْخُلَ الْجَنَّةَ. If you guard it, then there is a promise from Allah that you will enter Jannah. So again, you see this word, guarding. He also told us, only a true believer is able to guard his wudu. And that's another problem we have today. A lot of people, they pray, but they don't make wudu. Or they cheat. Like no one is looking, okay, I'll skip my arms or I'll skip my, feet. You cannot do that. If you want to have a valid prayer, you have to do wudu properly. Or some people, when they use the restroom, they don't guard. Again, it's about guarding. They don't guard themselves. So they get, urine on their clothing, on their body, and they don't care. Not to mention that they make a mess, around the toilet, which is not polite or not appropriate. So guarding your tahara, your purification, is also part of hifz. I'll mention a few more things about hifz. I'm not going to dwell here too much, but to show you that Islam is based on guarding a few things. Not too many, but you got to guard a few things. One of them is to guard your head and your stomach. That is mentioned in one hadith of the Prophet. So you guard your head basically by guarding what gets in your head, what goes into your head. You have to guard it. So what is in the head? Well, we have the eyes, we have the tongue, we have the ears. So for example, what do you listen to? Are you listening to, bad lyrics? Okay. I said on purpose, I said bad lyrics because I don't want to go into this issue of music and rap and all of that. We probably can discuss that in a different halaqah, but because if I want to talk about it, I want to give myself enough time. But I don't think there's any difference of opinion about listening to bad music or music with foul language or something like that, or anything that has meaning that is not appropriate. Any objections? No. Good. You get my point. We need to guard our limbs and our faculties. Likewise, what you speak, what you say has to be appropriate. What about the stomach? Well, what we put in our stomach, what we eat. And one more thing that we need to protect, that is mentioned in a different hadith. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu مَنْ حَفِظَ مَا بَيْنَ لَحْيَيْهِ وَمَا بَيْنَ رِجْلَيْهِ دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. If you protect, you understand it? You want to translate? Because you kind of made that sound. Okay, I'll do it. I know it's not easy. If you protect what's between your jaws, what is between our jaws? Our mouth, our tongue. So what we say, what we speak. وَمَا بَيْنَ رِجْلَيْهِ, what's between our legs. That's our private parts. So we have to protect those as well. One thing, for example, make sure people don't look at you. Because this is now common. You go to public restrooms and people don't care, don't pay attention. But as a Muslim, you have to care, you have to pay attention. So you're not supposed to allow anyone to look at your private parts. Okay, so these are some examples of things we're supposed to protect. So remember, let's go back to the hadith. Prophet telling Ibn Abbas, guard Allah, meaning guarding His boundaries. And we mentioned some examples, and Allah will guard you. A lot of Muslims today wonder, how come Allah is not protecting me? How come Allah is not guarding me? But we don't pay attention that there's a condition here. You gotta do it first. You take the first step. One thing you're gonna notice about this hadith is that you're always taking the first step. And a lot of Muslims today do not get it. They always complain like, how come God is not helping us? How come Allah is not giving us victory? We're promised victory, but we don't see it. But when you look into the hadith, when you look into Quran, you see that there's always a condition. You don't get this for free. You're not special. Well, I mean, we don't have this. I mean, it's not part of our belief to believe that we are special people. Unless you do, I mean, you become special when you implement what you're supposed to do. Then you become special. But by virtue of being born as a Muslim, or your name is Muhammad or Fatima, that does not make you special. So there is a condition here. We want the protection of Allah, we got to do something. We have to guard His religion, and then we get the guardianship, we get the protection of Allah. Capiche? All right. Can we move to the second advice? Yes. Do I get the permission? Thank you. So this was number one. This was advice number one. Pretty simple. Again, remember, the Prophet speaking to someone who might have been 10 years old. Do we have any 7-year-old here? Don't volunteer anyone else. Speak for yourself. Any 7-year-olds here? No? 8? 9? Okay, so we have 9. So the youngest here is 9. It's not bad. So Ibn Abbas could have been 9, right? Okay, number 2. He said, "Ihfadillah tajidhu tujahak." Number 2 is similar to number 1. He said, guard Allah, same thing, meaning guarding His what? Boundaries, yes, religion. And you will see Allah in front of you. It doesn't mean that you're going to see Him in front of you like physically, right? It means He's going to be in your life. Allah will be in your life. If you guard the boundaries of Allah, you're going to see Allah in your life. He's going to be part of your life. Man, that car is making a lot of noise.
Yeah, kind of awesome.
Is it the same car?
No.
As you all know, I get distracted easily. So. Oh, you noticed that, right?
Yeah.
Especially with your phone, playing with your phone. I can hear it very well.
Let's close that door then.
I don't know who opened the door. Do we need the door open?
The breeze inside. Very, very nice.
Oh, we have fans.
But then the breeze comes in, the fans move.
Okay. Number 3. So he said, وَإِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهِ. Talal. Pay attention. Thank you. He said, if you ask Allah. And if you seek help from Allah. Now, this is important because a lot of people now, they have so much dependence on others. So the companions of the Prophet were taught this principle, and it was said that if, for example, if one of them was on a horse and they had a whip, nowadays this might be called cruelty to animals. I don't know, maybe. But the point is, if they had a whip and they dropped the whip, They would not ask anyone, even if there was somebody right next to them. They would not ask that person to pick up the whip. They would get off the horse and pick it up themselves. And now this is something, it tells us that the Prophet taught his companions self-dependence. They don't depend on anyone else. We have people nowadays, they're asking people left and right for things they need, things they don't need. They're always depending on others. So this is something really good to pick up as a young man, because if you wait until you're older, in your 30s and 40s, and you have this habit of asking others and depending on others, you're not going to be able to change. So it's good to teach yourself right now. You're in bed and you want to drink some water, and you're always asking your brother or sister, hey, can you bring me this cup of water? Get up and get it. You're not paralyzed, you're not handicapped, you have legs, you can walk, just get up and get it. You don't have to be asking people all the time. Train yourself to rely on yourself, to be self-reliant. Okay. Number 4. تعرف إلى الله في الرخاء يعرفك في الشدة. Get to know Allah in the times of ease, and Allah will know you in times of difficulty, in times of hardship. That is also important. Nowadays, what happens, many times, people forget about Allah in the times of ease. And when there's a hardship, they run to the masjid. They run to the imam. Oh, imam, can you make dua for me? I'm in trouble. Like, where were you? See here, it says, you know Allah in the times of ease. Meaning, you get closer to Allah, you remember Allah, you worship Allah in the times of ease, and then Allah will know you in the times of hardship. You don't even have to make dua. Because if you're stuck in on the side of the highway, or you're sick, you're not going to remember maybe. You're not going to have time to make dua. You should be ready already. You should have been prepared all along. That is the idea here. So you remember Allah in the times of ease, because when you have the luxury of sitting home or driving or watching something, you have plenty of time to make dua. But if you're in trouble, you may not have time to make dua. So this is important. Remember Allah in the times of ease. Plus, it shows your character. If you only can remember Allah when you need Him, like in times of hardship, this is not really a good relationship. No human being would allow you to have a relationship like that. Like, imagine you have a friend, but you only call him, and this happens sometimes. You only call him when you need money. What's going to happen? A few times later, they're going to dump you. They have no need for you, because you only call them when you need them. You only call them when you want money from them. Again, same question. People wonder, we go to Mecca, we make dua. We're always making dua when there's a problem. Like there's a war in some place, there's famine, and this is the only time we remember Allah, and that's wrong. You should remember Allah when you're having food, not when you're hungry. You should remember Allah when you are in peace, not at war. Clapping for me? Oh, thank you. I'm humbled.
That should be a quote.
Huh?
That should be his quote.
A quote. Okay, we're almost there. Hang it. Why are people leaving? Guys, not? Do you guys not like my lecture?
They're being self-dependent and getting lost. Why are you being so rude? Yeah.
Wallah, I want to go get a drink. Is it haram?
Yes. Is it haram?
Is it haram to go get a drink?
Is it that?
Wallah, it's not.
No, it is not haram. Maybe it's impolite, but it's not haram.
It's impolite.
Alhamdulillah.
I said bismillah.
All right. What number are we on?
5. We're on 2.
2.
We're going to 3.
Man.
We're going to 3.
5.
We just finished 4, right? So we're going to go into 5. We just finished 4. Huh?
Yeah.
No, we haven't done 5 yet.
We're about to go into 5.
We're going into 5 right now. Okay, number 5. So number 5 is a bit long. So let me say it in Arabic and then we'll see if we can say it in English. Okay, he said, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْأُمَّةِ لو اجتمعت على أن ينفعوك بشيء لم ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله تعالى لك وإن اجتمعوا على أن يضروك بشيء لم يضروك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله تعالى عليك.
How did you do that in all one dress? Wait, what did you do?
Because he's an arrow.
Lots of training.
He's an arrow. That's what
I'm trying to encourage you to learn Arabic and to speak it fluently.
Very beautiful dua. Min hadith.
So, what does it mean? What does it mean?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Maybe. I'm not expecting anybody, I guess, to know. So he said, and know that if the entire, we could say community, so it could mean the human race, not just the ummah, the conventional meaning. He said, and know if the entire human race or entire community were to gather in order to bring benefit, to bring a benefit to you, they won't be able to do that unless Allah has written that upon you. I want you to imagine this, that he's saying this to a young boy. I mean, this is such a big statement, right? It's kind of philosophical. You can't really get it right away. And not only that, he's showing you how much potential we have. If somebody really believes in this, you're going to have unlimited power. Imagine the Prophet ﷺ empowering a young boy like that, telling him that if even the entire universe was to conspire against you, they would not be able to harm you unless and until God wills. It's easy to say, but imagine if somebody believed that. And on top of it, imagine if a young man believed in that. Because when you get old, you're going to be tired and sick. You're seeing a doctor every other day. And it's all about you guys. Not to mention, the Prophet, actually, I'll mention this as an anecdote. The Prophet once said, Al-waladu majbaratun makhbala. Sorry, let me say it again. Al-waladu majbanatun mabkhala. It says when you have a child, like so you get married, obviously, and you have a child, you become two things. You become stingy and you become a coward. This is actually the Prophet said that. Because when you have a child, now you worry. Oh, I'm going to protect my child. I'm not going to risk my life. Because if I die, he's not going to have a father. There's no one to take care of him. There's no one to provide for him. So all of a sudden you become stingy. So you have money. You're not going to give it left and right. If you're young, you don't care. You go to college, usually you're broke. You don't even care about money. Comes and goes. Who cares? You get a child, you get a son or a daughter. You're going to be stingy. Say, no, this money, I need it. I'm going to spend it on my kids. I'm going to spend it on my children. I cannot afford to lose it. So it's a very wise word from the Prophet, peace be upon him. So this is your chance now. If you want to do anything, adventurous. I'm not telling you to do anything dangerous. There's a big difference between adventure and danger, by the way.
Danger is more fun.
I did not say that. I'm not responsible for that. I don't want your father to come after me, so it's your own conclusion.
What do you say? You said danger is more fun.
I mean, you get the point, right?
Yeah.
So, and then he said, which is, the opposite or the counterpart, he said, and if they were to gather to harm you with anything, they would not be able to harm you except with something that God has written upon you. So again, they cannot do anything, they cannot harm you except with what Allah has ordained, with what Allah has decreed. So that is number 5. 2 more to go. Who's tired?
We're sitting down, don't worry.
I'm not tired.
Hungry.
What way?
Hungry. I'm tired.
I'm kind of hungry. I'm not tired.
Okay. Let's go to number 6. Number 6. Okay, number 6. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ مَا أَخْطَأَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُصِيبَكَ وَمَا أَصَابَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُخْطِئَكَ. So he said, and know for certain that whatever missed you was not going to happen to you. And whatever happened to you was not going to miss you. Now this happens a lot. You go to work, somebody goes to work, and they have an accident. And they say, well, if I did not leave the house, I would not have had an accident. Or if I did not leave at this time, I would not have had the accident. Or if I took highway 80 instead of 70, I would not have had the accident. And this hadith is telling us wrong. Because it says, right, I mean, listen carefully again, it says, whatever missed you was not supposed to happen to you. If you missed the accident, you were not supposed to be in that accident. And if you had it, you were not supposed to miss it. It was not going to miss you. It was going to happen to you regardless. So again, remember this because we hear this a lot even from Muslims. And these are incorrect notions, incorrect ideas. Last but not least, number 7. Number 7. I cannot rewind, so whatever you missed will be on the quiz, and we'll find out how much you were able to retain.
Are we asking questions before the quiz?
Yes, we are. So let me finish this, and then we can do the questions, and then we can do the quiz, inshallah. Number 7, he said, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ النَّصْرَ مَعَ الصَّبْرِ وَأَنَّ الْفَرَجَ مَعَ الْكَرْبِ وَأَنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. He said, and know for certain that victory, that success, comes with patience. Like they go hand in hand. You cannot separate the two. So you want to have success in life, you're going to need to be patient. The things that are worth attaining usually are hard. They're not easy. Because otherwise, everybody would have gotten them. Right? So usually things that are worthwhile, they are hard by nature, and you have to put in more efforts, and you have to be patient. Likewise, I mean, these are things that come together. So victory with patience. Al-faraj ma'al karb. Karb is when you have a hardship, or even worse than that. Karb is like a challenge in life, like a serious challenge. And faraj is the relief. Like you were in a situation, you're stuck, and then you're waiting for a way out. So that is al-faraj. Faraj is a way out, and karb when you're stuck in a problem, in a situation. So he said they go hand in hand. So if you are stuck, know that there is a way out. I know a lot of times we lose hope, we despair, but he said, know for certain that there is a way out. It's just waiting for you. And with hardship, there is ease. Okay, so these are all duals. Every time you see a hardship, know there is some ease that comes with it. It accompanies it. So there's no difference. There is no separation even. There's always ease with hardship. And if you believe in that, I mean, life will be much, much easier. Because what happens a lot of times, you see some amount of hardship and you lose all hope. And you even hear it from small kids. I will never be successful. I will never pass this whatever course or this class. I'm just not smart. You hear that all the time. And this is like self-defeating. Meaning, you're defeating yourself. You're convincing yourself that you're not good enough. And this hadith is telling us the opposite. Like even when there's a real hardship, there's already an ease coming with it. They're inseparable. So that is also important to keep in mind. Now one thing, and this is the last advice, but one thing I want to mention at the end, one thing you see in all of this hadith, from beginning to end, you see always the Prophet putting the onus on you first. You got to do something first and then something else will happen. Because a lot of people sit and wait. And you cannot be a responsible adult if you are sitting and waiting. You have to start something. You have to initiate a process. So if you survey the entire hadith, you guard Allah, Allah will guard you. Who's doing that first? You are. You guard first. You guard Allah, Allah will be in front of you. You are taking the first step. You ask Allah and Allah will respond. Who's taking the first step? It is you. And on and on. I mean, the rest is just telling you also some facts that are related to this. Okay. It's actually my phone. I didn't realize. Okay, I think we're done with the hadith, with the advice of the Prophet, peace be upon him, to Ibn Abbas, who was very young at that time, and he was as young as some of you. Let's go now to questions, and then we'll do the quiz. Okay, let's start from Yaman, go around. From the right side. Excuse me.
Said that if something missed you, it was never going to hit you, it's going to get you because it's going to miss you.
Yes.
Sorry. Also, like, if you make dua, something that was going to hit you will miss you. For example, like a car accident, if you make dua, you dua goes 3 ways. It's either accepted to save you on Qiyamah, or like it takes you out of the...
Interesting. So the question is, I said, or not me, but the hadith said, if something was supposed to happen to you, it's not going to miss you. If something missed you, it wasn't supposed to happen to you. So the brother is asking, don't we believe that when you make dua, one of the benefits of dua is that it will ward off, it will prevent something bad from happening to you. So how do we reconcile the two? Well, we know the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not like our knowledge. Allah knows the future. So Allah knew that you're going to make that dua before you made it. And as a result, He protected you because of your dua. So whatever did not happen to you was because of the dua and was not going to happen to you in the first place. Yeah, something like that. Okay, let's go around. Who's next? Talal, go.
Okay. So I just want to see if this is kind of the same thing you're talking about. So
Okay.
one time I heard this story where this guy was supposed to get on a plane, but he saw that it was like extremely like stormy, so he stayed home. But then all of a sudden the plane it crashed, and at like 8:30, and he died in his bed at 8:30.
Is this a true story?
I believe so.
Okay. And the question is?
Is that the same as what you're talking about? Like, because he was supposed to be on that plane.
So the question is, somebody, let's assume it's a It doesn't have to be a true story. It's a good example though, so we can use it as an example. So somebody was supposed to be on a plane. It was stormy. The person got scared. So he turned around, went home. The plane, when it went up in the air, crashed at 8:30, but the guy died in his bed at 8:30 at the same time. That's what you're saying. It's hard to believe it's a true story, but let's assume it is. Okay, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Does that relate to what we're talking about here?
Yes. Like, is that like?
Okay. So keep in mind here, we do not know what was going to happen. All what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us here, or the Prophet is telling us, whatever was going to happen to you will happen to you. You and I do not know what was going to happen. So for this man, all along, he was supposed to die in bed. And that's where he died. If it was written that he was going to die in the plane, he would have died in the plane. Simple as that. Is that clear? Okay, let's make a full round and we'll go back. Any questions here? Are you guys here? Hello? Oh. Hey, don't laugh, please. Don't laugh at anyone. Okay, let's go back to Yaman.
Is this also similar to the story of Prophet Sulaiman, where the man was in his council or something like that, and Malik Moses was also there, and the man was like confused because he saw another man staring at him. So he asked Prophet Sulaiman, so that was Malik Moses.
Yes.
And the man asked Prophet Sulaiman to take him to India, something like that.
Yes.
And Malik Moses caught him there.
Okay, so there's a story about Prophet Sulaiman, Prophet Solomon, and actually it serves as a really good example of what we're talking about here. Quickly, the story says that there was this minister of Prophet Solomon. We know Prophet Solomon was also a king. So he was in a court and he had a minister. And the minister noticed that somebody was looking at him weird. And he got scared. And he said, "Who is this guy?" And Prophet Sulaiman said, "This is the angel of death." And this man got really scared. And he asked Prophet Sulaiman, with his special powers, to take him all the way to China or some far place. India, China, doesn't matter. China? Was it China? Doesn't matter. India, all right. People voted for India. Anyways, so when this happened, the angel of death said, he was talking to Prophet Sulaiman, again, it's a story, right? He said, initially I was confused because I was commanded to take his soul in India, and I was surprised he was here in your court. And I was confused. The command that came to me said, you take his soul in India. So, obviously this man went to his death, as we say. So, that is the story. But it kind of illustrates what we're talking about. You cannot run away from your destiny. Wherever it is, it will happen to you.
No, you were meant to say that. I was meant to just say this to you.
By the way, you cannot apply this principle, you cannot apply it to the future because you don't know what is in for you, what is in store for you. But we only can be certain about, let me finish, listen carefully, you can only be certain about the past. Because if it happened, then it was meant to happen. But you cannot use this against someone. You cannot use it to say what's going to happen in the future, because only Allah knows what's going to happen in the future.
Can I go again?
Yes.
So it means you can't say to somebody, like, say you do something dangerous, if I die, I die. You can't say that. If I die, I'm meant to die.
Yeah.
Well, you can say it hypothetically.
No, somebody's like, oh, you're doing that dangerous. You'd be like, if I die, Allah already wrote it for me.
Yeah, it is not an excuse to do something irrational or stupid.
Don't do anything irrational.
Yes. How come it's only you two asking today? What's happening to everybody else? Oh, you do have a question.
So does that mean time travel is haram?
What is it with you and haram? I mean, you're always asking me, is drinking water haram?
Well, I want to know if it's haram or not.
No, the question is it possible?
Okay. Let's say in the year 3000 there is going to be tribal travel. So is that haram? Like,
Let's go to the next question.
Okay, listen. If there was time travel, people would have already came.
So if you were asking this question to Imam Malik, he would have smacked you. Because Imam Malik did not like the what if questions. What if this, what if that, what if this, what if that. But luckily I'm not Imam Malik, lucky for you. Oh, yes.
Kind of an off-topic question.
Sure.
So, like, what if you have, like, I heard that, like, you can have a dream and then it could happen. Is that true? Like, if you can have a dream and it could happen?
Oh, the question is, you can have a dream and it will happen. Well, it depends on the kind of dream. There are basically 3 types of dreams. There's a dream which we call a ru'ya. It's a good dream and it will come true. And then the second one is from shaitan. This is basically the nightmare or the dream you wake up from and you're terrified. And the third one is hadithun nafs, like whatever yourself is telling you. You are hungry, so you see yourself in front of a big feast. Or you're thirsty, you see rivers. So that's basically, or you watched a movie and then you see some of the characters in your dream. So this is a third type. Basically, whatever yourself is telling you, whatever. So if you see something you don't like, the Prophet told us, do not tell it to anyone and it will not harm you. I know some people wake up and they're terrified from some dreams and they think it's going to happen to them. They think it's going to come true. But the Prophet told us, don't worry, don't tell anyone and it's not going to harm you. Okay?
What if it's like super fictional?
Now you're going into the what if. No, go ahead.
Well, like, what if it's super fictional? There's no way for it to happen.
Sure, like I said, mostly those fictional dreams are from the third category. Like you've been watching Star Trek too much or Star Wars or something. Again, if it's... Don't! I just told you not to. Yes. Oh. That's very effective. Like usually I do this and nothing happens. And now I like that. Go ahead.
Isn't it true that if you tell those dreams, it becomes true?
Are you trying to reverse the second rule? I just go. Okay, so listen carefully. The Prophet said, if you see a bad dream, I want you to use your logic here. If you see a bad dream, then don't tell anyone and nothing bad will happen to you. And now you're saying, if I go and tell someone, then something bad will happen to me, for certain. No, it could happen, but it's not for certain. But the Prophet, in order to even prevent that possibility, he said, don't say it, and for sure, nothing will happen to you. So, this is like negative logic, right? Yes?
I have 2 questions.
No, come on. We need to allow other people.
Is there anybody? Okay.
The last question. Tala, if you have any questions, you can come to me afterward. I'll spend the whole night trying to answer your questions.
No, let him ask them.
But if you
go
do
ahead.
say, if you do stop talking about the dream, that means that Allah made you talk about the dream.
I did not hear. Can you guys listen up? Sorry, go ahead. Go.
But if you talk about the dream, it means Allah made you talk about the dream, right?
Are you blaming Allah for your
No, I'm not saying that.
action? So this is a common thing. People, by the way, and this is something that is mentioned in theology, people do something and then they say, well, Allah caused us to do that. This is, by the way, this is mentioned by the pagans. So they would say, but God enabled us to worship idols. So it's not our fault because it is God who did that to us or who made us do that. Allah does not make you do anything because you have a free will. As a human being, we believe that you have a free will, so you cannot blame it on Allah. You cannot say, well, Allah made me do this. Because
But how would you have free
you
will
have...
if you already know?
Yeah, but it's
How do you
already
have
off.
free will if you already know? See, if there's already like.
Okay, so that now we go into a lot of technicalities. It's a great question, but it's going to take me longer to answer it, so maybe some other time. Because this is an important question, but it takes a little longer to explain. The perceived clash or contradiction between free will and the fact that Allah has a will also upon you. So there is some delicate balance between the two, but we can't go into a lot of detail there.
So it's a small question. A very small question.
Yeah.
You probably will answer with the yes.
Go ahead, come on, fire.
Okay. Is it true that
No.
Wait.
Yeah, yes or no?
Is it true that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows you a full, like your full life, like while you're in your...
Yep.
What do you think life flashing for your eyes?
When, where?
Like when you die.
You only play
When? No, complete the sentence. I did not hear
Is
it.
it true that you get like a full movie kind of your life?
When?
When you're still...
No. Okay, that was easy. Okay, we're gonna have to end it. I think the pizza's here, so. And by the way, if you still have any questions, you're welcome to come to me after we finish. But we don't want everybody to wait.